Okay, so let's open up our book to page 468, Lesson 2, the U.S. Economic System. Let's look at the key ideals, which are our learning objectives. The U.S. economy is built on principles of laissez-faire capitalism. The U.S. economy moves through cyclical phases of growth, slowdown, recession, and recovery. Saving and investing contribute to the economy by making money available to businesses to grow. Okay, let's look at the top of page 468, the first paragraph, and we'll begin. In the United States, and please follow along in your book, in the United States, the economic system of individual people and businesses primarily determines our economic health and growth. We make our own decisions about how to save and spend most of our income. We can accept employment as we choose, become entrepreneurs, and build businesses of our own, and seek education and training to whatever level best serves our goals. These freedoms are based on laissez-faire capitalism, the ideals of 18th century economist Adam Smith, who believed that if individuals are free to act in their own best interest economically, the sum total of their actions will be in the best interest of the society as a whole. Now, we've mentioned Adam Smith before. He wrote a book in 1776 called The Wealth of Nations, and he is known also as the father of Western economics. Let's go to the slide. Let's pull up a couple slides. Pull it up to the next one, please. So this slide here discusses the U.S. economic system. We've talked about the different type of economic systems, and we live in a market economy. Sometimes people say, oh yeah, you do live in a market economy, but it's a mixed economy that the U.S. has. Well, we live in a market economy. We refer to it sometimes as free enterprise, as we'll see in the book. So let's look at this particular slide, the U.S. economic system. And when they're talking about mixed economy, they're just talking about different systems that may appear in our country. As a whole, our type of economic system is a market economy where individuals and businesses make the economic choices of what, whom, and how to produce things. Okay, let's move up to the next slide. Here, there's a video that we want to play about the U.S. economic system. Okay, so what we're doing now, instead of recording these videos from YouTube, we're going to put links at the bottom of the video, so you can click on the link and the video then plays directly off the channel where the video is located. Okay, so we won't play it in our videos. So when you're watching this particular video and it comes to a video like this one says U.S. economic system, you will look at the bottom of the video and there will be a link for the video. Okay, and so probably what we'll start doing, we'll put video number 1, and so you'll know that that's the video. When you look at the bottom, it'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the one you click on. That'll be in reference to this lesson that we have titled here, U.S. economic system. So we're going to start doing that. Okay, all right. Okay, so then let's continue with the next slide. Let's go ahead and move it up. Okay, so here, the next slide present information about what is an entrepreneur. And as I've said in previous videos, when we put these graphic slides up, we don't want to talk through them. We're going to do the editorial instruction from the book. These graphics you can pretty much read on your own. Okay, let's go ahead and slide it up a little. And let's slide it up a little bit more. That way you can take notes as you see fit. And of course you can always rewind or fast forward as much as you need to. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And here, again, there's a video on entrepreneurship. So what we'll do is we will ask you again, look at the end of this video that we're recording, and those video links should be there. So this will be video number 2. Okay, so just to recap, so we're going to slide this up so you can see the next slide, and there's a video. But again, we're not going to play the video inside the ones that we are recording. We're going to refer you to the link at the bottom of the video. So we've probably shown this slide. We're going to slide it up just to recap it again. And there's a graphic here about the different signs that prove that you are born to be an entrepreneur. Okay, and let's move it up again. There. Now, as a recap, we're going to go to this video, right? And this is going to be video number 2. So we'll show you what the video looked like, so when you get there to YouTube, you'll know what you're looking for. But just click on the link. It'll be number 2. Okay, so now let's go ahead and turn your attention back to your book on page 468. The next paragraph, follow along. Throughout the history of the United States, free enterprise and competition have played important roles in the development of our economy. Businesses have incentives to grow larger, either by expanding their capacity or by integrating a broader set of functions into their operations in order to make more profit. However, businesses are expected to compete with each other on the merits of their products and operations. Businesses are not allowed to form monopolies, and then they define for you what they are. Single companies that control whole industries, and they also are not allowed to form oligopolies. And again, they give you the definition of oligopolies: tight niche groups of companies that control whole industries. For an example, the auto industry in the United States would be an oligopoly. Few controlling an industry. There are not very many auto manufacturers in the U.S. That's an oligopoly. Let's look at a slide here, please. So go ahead and pull it up. So we'll go ahead and move this up. And here's another concept about laissez-faire. Well, actually, they defined it for you. And I found this graphic I thought was pretty good to help you understand what they mean by laissez-faire. And so here you can see they're doing a comparison between the laissez-faire economy and social democracy / socialism. Okay, let's move it up to the next slide. Okay, and there is a video we want you to view on laissez-faire. Again, you'll find the video at the bottom of this video. You'll find a link to this particular video. Okay, so let's move up to the next slide. So here they mention the basic principles of free enterprise, and they show you 7. Now, with this graphic, it goes right along with what we just discussed in the paragraph. Okay, so now discussing the basic principle of free enterprise. We've already talked about that in that second paragraph. Let's look back in your textbook and let's go to the next paragraph. Because the U.S. economy is not under government control, no one can predict or control exactly how the economy will behave. Our economy tends to move through a business cycle with identifiable phases, but the length and strength of a cycle and its phases vary greatly. The first phase of a cycle is the growth phase, in which businesses invest and expand optimistically. At some point, growth is slowed or stopped by one or more factors: limited resources, limited production capacity, tight employment, or market saturation. And the economy enters a slowdown phase. As businesses lay off workers, stop investing their capital, and cut back production, the economy enters a recession or depression phase. And trust me, we never want to see the 1930 depression phase again. It's a very difficult time for people living in a depressed economic situation. So you can look back at the 1930s and see the Great Depression, and you'll see what I mean, where wages dropped from 50 cents an hour to a nickel an hour, and that's pretty tough to provide for families off of that. But so the depression is kind of like the most difficult phase of the business cycle. Unemployment rises, consumer spending slows down, and businesses act very conservatively, holding down wages and prices, avoiding risks, and managing cash flow very tightly. Eventually, the economy moves into a recovery phase, perhaps initiated by government action. Sometimes the government will create work to help the economy get going again. Maybe start, rebuilding roads or building new bridges, and all these things are done by the government to help stimulate economic growth, because those initiatives by the government will create jobs. Okay, let's continue. Recovery may be slow or uneven across economic sectors, but eventually the economy moves into a new growth phase. Inflation, in which the combined price of goods and services grows faster than the purchasing power of the currency, is only partly related to these business cycle phases. Let's look at a slide here. Let's move up to the next one, please. So this slide presents information about competition. They defined it for you and give you some examples. Okay, let's move up to the next slide. What is a monopoly? And we've discussed this. A single business offering, the only business offering a type of product or service. In other words, there's no other competition. They are the sole provider of that product or service. And monopolies are never good for market economies. So let's move up to the next slide, please. Okay, and let's move up to the next slide. And we've defined this for you in oligopoly. We even gave you an example that the U.S. auto industry is an example of an oligopoly. Move up to the next slide, please. So they're doing a comparison here between the two. And let's move up to the next slide. So here, this is a video that we want you to view about monopolies and oligopolies. So again, what we want you to do is look at the bottom of our video, and you'll see the links that you can click on that go directly to the video, so you can play the video on YouTube. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, in the business cycle. And then they show you the different phases that we already discussed in your book. Let's slide it up just a little. And slide it up a little. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And here there is a video on the phases of the business cycle. So we want you to go and view this video. Just click the link above our below our video. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Here we give you an illustration of inflation, and they define also what it is for you, and we've discussed this in the book. So we know, in generally, when we're talking about inflation, the prices of goods and services go up. Okay, which means when the prices of goods and services go up, your money, your income, your dollar does what? Buys less. Let's go up to the next slide. And here is an example of inflation since 2000 inside the Consumer Price Index. And to slide it up a little. And let's move it to the next slide. Go ahead and move up to the next slide. Another slide about inflation, showing you some comparisons of different items, what they cost, and then what happened to the price during inflation. Okay, let's slide it up just a little. Okay, and let's move to the next slide. There's a video we want you to review on what is inflation. And again, these videos will be at the bottom of our video. Just click on the link, it'll take you so you can view the video directly on YouTube. Okay, let's look back in our book and let's look at the last paragraph at the bottom of page 468. Okay, and follow along, please. Banking and investing services, like most U.S. industries, are conducted on principles of free enterprise. A major role of banks and savings and loans associations is to create pools of savings in order to make money available as credit to businesses and consumers. Stock exchanges have a similar purpose. They allow investors to purchase shares of stock which represent part ownership of a business. Both saving and investing make funds available for businesses to use to grow. When people invest in stock, they take risk because the value of the stock depends on the success of the business. However, the potential return is generally much higher than the interest rate on a savings account. Okay, let's look at a slide. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move up to the next slide. Okay, so we're discussing banking in your book. We've covered the last paragraph, and here's some additional information, illustrations, and some definitions of some of the terms we mentioned in the last paragraph. Okay, let's go ahead and move the slide up a little. How do banks make money? There's an illustration there. And let's move up to the next slide. Okay, so we have a video that we want to reference for you to go and view on how banks make money. And again, you can look at the bottom of our video, and it should be a link there to this video. Okay? Okay, let's scroll to the next slide. Okay, well, stock exchange, and here's some information about what we mentioned from your book. Okay, let's move it up a little, and let's move it to the next slide. Okay, so we have a video here we'd like to refer you to. Look at the bottom of our video, and there should be a link for this video. Okay, so after you've reviewed the last video that we've referenced, what is the stock exchange, that will conclude our lesson on page 468, lesson 2, the U.S. economic system. We'll stop here.